Chapter 2. How Faith Works. Through faith we understand that the worlds were formed by the Word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. The American translation of the Bible clarifies these words. It is faith that enables us to see that the universe was created at the command of God, so that the world we see did not simply arise out of matter. Moffat translates the same passage in this way. It is by faith that we understand that the world was fashioned by the Word of God, and the visible was made out of the invisible. Before life becomes meaningful, before religion has any significance, you must face these questions. 1. Do you recognize man as more than physical, more than intellectual? 2. Are you also aware of the spiritual man? 3. Do you recognize that there are spiritual forces at work in the world? Your answer, of course, is yes, or you would not be reading this book. You would not be searching for a satisfactory explanation of God and your relationship to Him. You would not be trying to find a pragmatic religion. You would have no desire to learn more about it. Spiritual laws, no ambition to grasp the means of communication with spirits which are available to you. You would not want to know how faith works. The persistent of man's recognition of his needs for God and his unceasing search throughout the ages are proof in themselves of the reality of the God he seeks. What he calls God is not particularly important. What he does with his belief is of supreme importance, for it determines the circumstance of his life, the conditions under which he lives. Faith works through acceptance. A Unitarian minister, James Freeman Clarke, once said, "All the strength and force of man comes from his faith in things unseen. He who believes is strong. He who doubts is weak. Strong convictions precede great action. The man strongly possessed of an idea is the master of all who are uncertain or unwavering. Clean, deep, living convictions rule the world." Someone has defined faith as the unconditional acceptance of the truth of our affirmation and an absolute belief that our desires will be fulfilled. Faith is not presumption, but assumption. It is believing something which the conscious mind says is not true. Volumes could be written on the subject, but let us try to boil the process down into a few words. To be successful in faith, we must not only assume or believe that God is able, willing, and eager to help us, but we must also accept our responsibility to cooperate with Him. How do we cooperate? By our realization and trust that He is fulfilling our every expectation now. Our work is to make those facts real to our mind. I can speak the word of peace, health, or prosperity, but unless my feeling supports the words that I speak, it accomplishes nothing. It is only when my word and my feelings unite and I become one with the power. Why is this true? Because feeling is the shock that sets the divine energy in motion. There is a powerful spiritual law at work here. It doesn't make any difference what your problem or difficulty may be if you will bring your faith and your feeling to bear upon it. If you will realize that right now and always there is an infinite power waiting to fulfill your slightest or greatest wish, you don't need to seek the solution. It will seek you. The law of faith. According to your faith, be it done unto you. The universal response will always be in direct ratio to the degree of your expectation. To him that hath, the consciousness of fulfillment shall be given. For him that hath not, this consciousness shall be taken away even that which he hath. If you expect much, you will receive much. If you expect little, you will receive little. The law must be fulfilled. The law works equally well, however, when it is brought to bear on negative thoughts and feeling. If you concentrate on ill health, poverty, loneliness, injustice, and futility, these conditions manifest in your life according to your faith. The first thing to determine is the kind of faith you have. When you wish good to materialize, you must have a positive, constructive faith. Then you are in a position to strengthen and develop it. Perhaps your faith is only the residue from a background of your childhood, maybe is a little shriveled from lack of use or tattered and worn from misuse. You still have it, however. All it needs is your awareness of its power, your recognition that you already have it in your possession, and the opportunity to express itself into action. Assume now that you have all the faith in God that you need, then act in accordance with this assumption. Every affirmation, thought, feeling, word, and action that expresses faith impresses faith upon the inner mind. As the subconscious accepts the impression, it will set in motion forces that are faith-producing. When we fill the subconscious mind with faith, thoughts of faith, feelings of faith, memories of acts of faith. By some mechanism of creation we have faith. The law of action and reaction is at work. The impression is an act of faith. The reaction expresses the power of faith. The subconscious mind is the creative phase of mind. The subconscious mind acts on what it is given to, but does not originate anything. But not every thought and feeling penetrates to the subconscious, fortunately. We cannot always determine which of the many impressions we receive in the course of the day will go beyond the conscious mind, the mind of the senses, the top of the mind. Whatever passes through this mind and finds lodging in the subjective mind is quite likely to be pregnant with feeling of some kind. But we have learned that we can deliberately plant in the subconscious mind the mental equivalent of the thing we should like to have objectified in our lives, that we can nullify thought that has been implanted for years, and that we can protect ourselves from the effect of a disastrous thought if we are aware of our danger at the time it threatens. God works through silence. That is why it is a good idea to spend a certain amount of time each day impressing faith upon the subconscious. We call this period the silence. When you are alone and relaxed, shut out the world, become very still, and make your declaration of faith. Even though you have a hard time affirming faith, affirm it anyway. Even if you don't feel that you have it, say that you have it. Say, I have faith in God. Say it positively and with feeling. Feel it down deep in your heart. Know that every thought you think and every word you speak contains the mountain-moving power of faith. Concentrate on the meaning of the word faith. Visualize the effect of faith in action in your life. See yourself moving in a world in which you meet men of faith, men in whom you put your trust, a world in which you prove your own faith by the authority with which you speak and act, by your calmness and poise and fortitude under difficulties, by your resiliency when stress has been removed, a world in which all things work together for good. The promises read, all things work together for good to them that love God. Paul told the Galatians that nothing availeth anything but faith, which worketh by love. Thanks be to God. We speak of enlarging our faith, but the only way in which we can do this is by enlarging our mental equivalents, by increasing our demands, and by adding the quality of gratitude. When we believe that God wants through us the thing that we want, we are ready to give thanks in advance. George W. Wilson said, possession follows the feeling that you do possess the things desired, and that feeling is made stronger if you will express gratitude for the possession. What things soever ye desire, believe that ye have received them, and ye shall have them. When one is grateful for something he has not yet seen or touched or experienced as a result of his conviction that it already exists, his gratitude will hasten its arrival. Have you ever noticed that praise of a dog brings out the best in him, and the praise of a man inspires him to be and do his best? So it is with faith. Many delayed healings have come when the sick have applied the power of praise and thanksgiving. The conscious mind is an agent. There is a tendency on the part of some metaphysicians and schools of thought today to disregard the conscious mind, to negate it or to ignore its activities. This is, of course, foolish on the face of it. The conscious mind is not only the mind of awareness and recognition, but the instrument that starts the mind working in the chosen field of thought. It senses and selects those ideas which it wishes to entertain. Jesus said, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." Without the activity of the conscious mind, we cannot know or be aware of anything. Acceptance of truth begins in the conscious mind as recognition or awareness. It is conveyed to the subconscious mind through realization or feeling. We become aware of ideas. Through conscious thought, we impress these ideas upon the subconscious mind. This does not mean that we are going to use the conscious mind to solve problems, heal disease, or to demonstrate prosperity. We are going to use it for the purpose for which it was intended, an agent to help us become aware of the omnipresent good. Science tells us that within the human body there are more than 50 million cells, each of which is a miniature universe, and each of which lives its own life. The psalmist declares that heaven and earth are full of thee, which means that God is everywhere equally present. God is omnipresent. God actually lives in each one of those cells at the same time. Each one is a manifestation of God's consciousness. If we live in the consciousness, I and my Father are one, our bodies are vibrant with life, spirit, and health. In the presence of perfection, each cell expresses that perfection. We do not treat against arthritis, neuritis, appendicitis, tonsillitis, sinusitis, bursitis, colitis, nephritis, or any other specific physical difficulty. In fact, the more we treat against a thing, the more we fasten it upon ourselves, and the more real it becomes to us. So why is this true? Because a treatment against anything is virtually a treatment for that thing. Disease is the effect of a cause implanted in the subconscious mind. We overcome disease by realizing that the body is spiritual substance, an extension of spirit in perfect form. I and the Father are one. The great purpose of Jesus' message was to teach us to realize our oneness with God. When Peter recognized and acknowledged that Christ in Jesus, the Master blessed him. Lazarus is dead, said Jesus, but nevertheless he commanded, Lazarus, come forth, and so he commands today. Throw off the grave clothes of your former self. Lift yourself a bit closer to the allness of God. Why repeat the race history of Adam? Why carry yesterday's ills, problems, and disappointment over into today? Know ye not that the prayer of faith shall save the sick? Hath it not been revealed to you that the Son of Man is come to save that which was lost? Be still and know. The most important, wonderful statement of being known to man is, I and my Father are one. Meditate upon it and make it your own. Take it into the stillness of your consciousness and let God reveal himself to you. Be still and know that I am God. Let his life, substance, and power flow through you as you. Open your mind to the truth of your oneness with him. Apply it to your body, yet in my flesh shall I see God. Make your contact with him and say, I know that my body is spiritual substance. Nothing can fasten to it that could not fasten to pure spirit. Spirit could not be subjected to destructive action, therefore nothing destructive can operate in me. The infinite perfection of spirit is now working in every cell of my body, for I am one with it. I accept my health, my wholeness, with gratitude. Actually, there are no healers of disease, there are only revealers of health. Get rid of the festering, smoldering, soiled, smelly, disease-producing thoughts in the mind. Empty out all the mental waste that has been accumulated for years. Flush out all the enmities, doubts, fears, jealousies, and worries by reversing them. Claim your oneness with God, and all these poison pockets will be drained. You will understand for the first time the meaning of Jesus' words, yet in my flesh shall I see God. When Naaman, the Syrian, dipped in Jordan 7 times, his flesh became as pure of that as a little child. So will ours when we know each new cell is perfect. Dr. Alexis Carroll of the Rockefeller Institute says, in Man the Unknown, there is unquestionable proof of the efficiency of prayer in the cure of all disease. The documented story of the cure of tuberculosis, cancer, and other stubborn diseases by its use has been told many times. Praying without ceasing is the constant recognition of our oneness with God. Healing emanates from a consciousness of wholeness. Health is a state of consciousness, a creative, upbuilding force that can turn weakness into strength, disease into ease, limitation into plenty. It is this realization that makes prayer effective and practical. When you get yourself out of the way of the divine circuits, the King of Glory will come in. When you find God within yourself, the prayer will be answered. Prayer, says Khalil Gibran in The Prophet, is but the expansion of yourself into the living ether. When you pray, you rise to meet in the air those who are praying at that very hour, and whom, save in prayer, you may not meet. Therefore, let your visit to the temple invisible be for naught save ecstasy and sweet communion. I cannot teach you to pray in words. God listens not to your words, save when he himself utters them through your lips. Prayer is the realization of your oneness with God and the acceptance of the tremendous power this realization gives us. Someone has likened faith to a bicycle. It stands upright only when it is motion. The minute it stops moving, it flops on its side. Faith must be kept in motion. If it is to have power, it must be exercised to be of any use. Open mine eyes. Have you found God? Where are you seeking him? God is spirit, said Jesus, but no one has ever seen spirit. If you say, I will believe only what I see, you are living in darkness. You are in bondage to yourself, and you cannot know anything beyond yourself. You cannot know God, you cannot know Christ, you cannot know life. You cannot know prayer. No one has ever seen God, life, or power. If you believe only what you see, you must doubt your own existence. You have seen the house in which you live, but you have never seen yourself. What you see in the looking glass is but the form of your outer self. All you see of your loved ones is the body house in which they live. The real self you have never seen. If we accept appearance for fact, we are denying our true selves. We exclaim with Job, "Behold, I go forward, but he is not there, and backward, but I cannot perceive him. On the left hand, where he doth work, but I cannot behold him. He hideth himself on the right hand, where I cannot see him." Man is full of trouble. Are you easily discouraged? Do difficulties pile up on you to such an extent that you tend to lose heart? Then remind yourself of Jesus' words. "In the world ye shall have tribulations, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world." Settle this thing in your mind once and for all. Did God promise a soft and easy life? Did God promise that life here would be a bed of roses? Did God say that there would be no crosses to bear, no problems to solve, no obstacles to climb over, no vicissitudes to meet? God did not. Then what is his plan for us? We have it in Jesus' own words. "Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." In other words, be in the world, but not of it. Go out and live life. Fight the good fight of faith, keep the faith. Take unto you the whole armor of God, the conscience of truth, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. Of course you will have trouble in an unfinished world, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. I have given you the mind and power with which to meet the world. It is true that you can skip a lot of trouble on the experience plane. In fact, you can often transform trouble by letting this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. You can ward off a lot of grief by practicing the presence of God. But trouble touches everyone at some time. In the world you shall have tribulations, because it is that kind of world. Then why be negative, pessimistic, and tragic about it? Why single yourself out as a special target for trouble, saying as it hits you, "Everything happens to me"? After all, we are not like the bewildered little boy who was lost in the dry goods store. When the sympathetic floor walker stopped to ask him what was wrong, he replied, "Please, sir, have you seen a lady without a little boy who looks like me?" We sorely tried and troubled as we are at times do have a Father, and closer is he than breathing, and nearer than hands and feet. In him we live, move, and have our being. Being justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. And not only so, but we glory in tribulations also. Perfect as this statement is, St. Paul went a step further. He went on to say, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God." Do you see what the apostle is trying to get over to us? It is simply this. No matter what befalls us, the secret of meeting it lies in bringing the power of God to bear upon it. If we face trouble with the desire to learn from the experience, we shall rise victorious. If it were not for trouble, there would be little mental or spiritual growth. Channing Pollock, the great playwright, once said, "Men in motor cars go forward by a series of explosions. A beautiful motor car cannot fulfill its function until it has a series of internal explosions." Just so is a human being with conflicts and difficulties to overcome gets somewhere and becomes someone. Make your agreement. The first step in dealing with trouble is to agree with it. "Agree with thine adversary quickly while thou art in the way with him," says Jesus. In other words, accept trouble as one of life's inevitabilities in the world mind. See it as a carborundum under the knife. Realize that it can minister to the soul's higher good. Crisis, failures, hardships, pain, suffering, opposition, and injustice are nothing more than the explosion in the mixing chamber of the mind. Agreement not only robs them of their power, but takes the fear, fire, and sting out of them and conditions the mind and life so that God can do greater things for us. St. Paul said, "Put on the whole armor of God." If the explosions tear you apart, you have not made your agreement with trouble. You will not be able to withstand in the evil day. St. Paul did not say, "Put on part of the armor of God," but specified the whole armor of God. You must give him your whole heart, mind, soul, and strength. The faith that saves, says John A. Redhead, is the total response of the whole self to the will of God. It is the response of the mind in belief, the heart in trust, the will in conduct. I have known all kinds of people in all kinds of trouble, but it is only those who wear the whole armor of God who triumph over it. Do you see why agreement is so important in meeting trouble? It is one of the great factors in every successful demonstration. It determines whether trouble makes or breaks us, whether we go up or down. The next step in meeting trouble is to cleanse the mind. Drop the trouble for the time being as you would drop a hot potato until it cools. Get clear away from it in your thought. This may take time, but keep at it. To receive the answer to any problem, you must not only seek guidance, but must also present an open and untroubled mind ready to receive it. The solution cannot come while the mind is running like a trip hammer. Be still and know that I am God. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Get the consciousness of His presence. See Him walking by your side. Know that you are surrounded by a creative mind that receives the impress of your thought and acts upon it. Know that you are in this mind and the mind is in you. Don't discuss your trouble with others and don't ask for advice. Seek the answer within. If the subconscious state of your thought denies what your conscious thought says, it neutralizes the conscious thought. That is why St. Paul told us to pray without ceasing. To get results, you must pray until your conscious thought believes and the subconscious thought no longer denies. You must pray until all doubts are removed. Treatment is a mental and spiritual adjustment. It is conditioning the mind so that it no longer refutes the idea of perfection embodied in the treatment. It is important to seek God's guidance in every problem, but we must first make sure that we are actually and wholeheartedly putting our problem in God's hands. Let us be childlike enough to believe that He will give us a definite and clear-cut answer. It doesn't make any difference how difficult or how pressing the problem may be. It will ultimately disappear or be solved. If you can be calm and collected in the midst of trouble, you will triumph over it. If you can fill your mind with the precious qualities of courage, confidence, and faith, nothing can defeat you. When the subconscious mind gets a new idea, when the idea takes possession of the conscious mind, it gets you. When you empty the subconscious of all adverse, tense, troublesome, and distorted thoughts and fill it in with thoughts of life, power, victory, and optimism, the whole tenor of your life will change. But this is such tedious work, you say. Well, that is right, but so is anything that is worthwhile and lasting. Don't be misled by the printed or spoken word. Many people say to me that after listening to a lecture, it sounds so easy when you tell us about it, and I know that is true. Faith is easy to understand but hard to apply. If it were otherwise, Christianity would soon lose its power. Faith is a challenge. If you are going to say the power of prayer of faith, you must not only back it up with acceptance, belief, and trust, but you must empty your mind of everything that contradicts or denies the prayer. That is why St. Paul said, "Our conversation is in heaven." It is difficult to think and speak constructive, positive, happy, victorious, life-giving words when the mind is filled with anxieties, apprehension, antagonism, antipathies, doubts, criticism, and fears. Just when some great challenge or opportunity comes along which would enrich our lives or improve our circumstance, we are stopped dead in our tracks by a sense of doubt, fear, or inferiority. Some sinister thought wriggles up out of the subconscious mind and says, "Beware, this is not for you. You are not equal to it. You do not have what it takes, let it alone." Let not your heart be troubled. Are you in some kind of difficulty right now? Then start drawing upon your faith. Face the difficulty and say, "God in the midst of me is able to conquer this thing. He is doing it now. I have faith to move mountains, and I am calling upon that faith now. I have the courage to conquer and subdue any adverse things." But here comes that voice again. You are only kidding yourself. You're scared stiff. You haven't any courage, and you know it. How are you going to silence its voice? You are going to challenge it every time it speaks. You are going to make it tell the truth. Say positively, forcefully, and with feeling, "Subconscious mind of me, I am tired of your lies, and I command you to tell the truth. I command you to restore my courage and faith, and I command you to do it now." Speak as one having authority. Let the subconscious know that you mean what you say. Imagination is a gift. Call upon your imagination. See yourself as you wish to be. See yourself possessing the things you desire to possess. Marcus Aurelius once said, "A man's life is dyed by the color of his imagination." Imagination is the process of projecting images upon the screen of the mind. You don't have to go through a lot of mental gyrations and exercise. You don't have to argue, reason, or divide. You just make a picture. You become aware of something. You know something. Raise the level of your consciousness, would you have God? Then you must accept him. You must become aware of him. You must be conscious of him. Do you see that? Do you understand it? Let me put it another way. Can you have anything unless you are conscious of it? Can you eat a peach unless you are conscious of it? Can you drive your car unless you are conscious of it? Can you greet a friend unless you are conscious of something? What did Jesus mean when he said, I am Alpha and Omega? He meant that the whole creative process begins and ends in God. There is nothing before Alpha, and there is nothing after Omega. This is the whole operation. This is the way the law works. I am, A and Z. The A of life is consciousness, awareness. The Z is demonstration. Put imagination to work. Jesus gave us another wonderful concept. Whatever you can imagine is yours, and you cannot demonstrate anything on the material plane that you cannot imagine first. And all things whatsoever you shall ask, believing, you shall receive. Now ponder that statement for a few minutes and make sure that you understand it. Creative imagination is a divine faculty given to every man. You have it now. When you put it to work, it opens your consciousness. But that's ridiculous, someone says. Imagination is fantasy. It is a waste of time. Do you know that you can't imagine anything that doesn't have a basis in fact? Even your wildest and sometimes horrible imaginings result from putting together parts of things you have seen, read, or heard about. You say, I want a better position. I want a new house. I want more friends. I want to travel. I want a larger income. You know that each of these things has a factual basis. Then meet the test. Answer the question, can you imagine it? Do you know that I and the Father are one? Do you know God as you? Do you have acceptance? Do you have self-completeness? If you have, what you want is yours. You have taken it into consciousness. It exists for you. It objectifies as you. It is you. If you can imagine it, you can have it. If you cannot imagine it, you cannot have it. That is the principle. Whatsoever things you desire when you pray, believe that you have received them and you shall have them. You say, I want a farm of my own. I want to be a great chemist, engineer, minister, leader, surgeon, etc. Why not? The desire is spiritually legal. That is, it harms no one. The wish is already established. That which you wish is to be. The kingdom of heaven is finished. God's work is already done. You are what you wish yourself to be right now. Then why are you looking inside instead of out? Why are you wishing instead of being? Is it because you have something else mixed up in your picture? Do you also say, I am too old, or I am too poor, or I do not have enough education? But the power is right there. It is within you. You could not have a desire that is not already established in God, one that is not awaiting your faith to be objectified. The farm is within you. The engineer is within you. The minister is within you. The chemist is within you. But you have to imagine it, believe it, feel it, embody it, dream it, become it. The everlasting now. There is no time in spirit. The fields are already white unto harvest. The kingdom of heaven is at hand, but there must be immediacy in your prayer. That promotion, that new refrigerator, that trip to Hawaii, the thing you are seeking to demonstrate. If imagination says next year, consciousness says next year, and God says next year, but Jesus said, Thy kingdom come in earth as it is in heaven. Note that is. Behold, now is the accepted time. Behold, now is a day of salvation. The time of God's giving is always now. Does anything happen when you pray? Does your word have power? Is it backed by faith and acceptance? Do you accept your good with every cell in your body? Do you feel it clear down to the tips of your toes? What is the word that the metaphysicians talk so much about? It is thought. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word was made flesh. Do you see what we are talking about? This word you speak in the consciousness that you are one with the Father is not a word of the head, but a word of the heart. It is the word of God. It is God. Speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. The word which is to be spoken into manifestation is a part of the whole. It is spoken with the understanding that I and the Father are one. Tell me then about your word. Do you take it into consciousness? Do you speak as one having authority? Do you believe that the desire is fulfilled before you speak, or do you only hope that it is? When does the word become God? When you can say, I and the Father are one. If you will go back and study the above paragraph carefully, you will see that what we've been talking about is consciousness. In the beginning was consciousness, and the consciousness was with God, and the consciousness was God, and the consciousness became flesh. The power of the Word is in the faith and consciousness back of it. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. So shall my word be. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please. The accomplishing word is not only the Spirit-filled word, but the believing word. It is both the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. If ye have faith, awareness and acceptance, and doubt not, ye shall say unto this mountain, Be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and it shall be done. Note the words, ye shall say. Who is it that is going to speak the word that will cast this mountain of trouble into the sea? Well, you, of course. You are the one who will speak this mountain out of existence. You shall say means you who are reading this book. You determine the level of your consciousness. Look at your consciousness for a moment. What do you find there? Which side of the fence are you on? What are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are you thinking? What are you accepting? Something evil? Something partial? Something poor? Something sick? Something feeble? Well, whatever it is that what you will get and what you will continue to get until you want something else. So just what are you seeking? What is it you are trying to do? What is it that you want to be? Is it necessary for your fulfillment? Will it add to your peace? Can you imagine it? Look again and tell me, is it complete and finished in your thought? Then speak your word and take the thing you seek. Don't muff it by fears and challenges. Don't strain, don't doubt. Don't throw obstacles in the way. Just take it by faith. If thou cannot believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. This is not the head belief of mental assent, but the heart belief of faith and trust. Are you seeking that state of mind by which the things desired become the things possessed? Then you must come by the way of Jesus' appointing. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, the consciousness of allness. Recognize your oneness with it. Unite your mind with his mind. Claim your good. There is an old fable about a dog that boasted of his ability as a runner. One day he gave chase to a rabbit but failed to catch it. The other dogs ridiculed him on account of his previous boasting. His reply was, You must remember that the rabbit was running for his life. I was only running after my dinner. The incentive is all important. You now have the incentive. If you are seeking loaves and fishes, you will not put the same quality of consciousness into your search that you will if your ambition is deeper and more serious. Seeking the spirit back of things not only puts you in possession of things, but enables you to use them freely. It is one thing that cannot be lost, stolen, fluctuate, or fail. Emerson says, What a man does, that he has. What is he to do with hope or fear? In himself is his might. Let him regard no good as solid, but that which is in his nature, and which must grow out of him as long as he exists. The goods of fortune may come and go like summer leaves. Let him scatter them on every wind as the momentary signs of his productiveness. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. Are your knuckles raw from knocking? Are your eyes tired from seeking? Are your vocal cords parched from asking? You set out to demonstrate health. You observe all the laws. You pray and treat, but nothing happens. Perhaps you knock at the door for supply. Your need is desperate. The mortgage is due, and the creditors are breathing down your neck. But no one opens the door. What are you going to do? Pin crepe on your sleeve and bemoan your fate? Are you going to become cynical, frustrated, and embittered? Are you going to settle back in your defeat, shrug your shoulders, and say, What's the use? Are you going to run up the flag of surrender and say bitterly, Doesn't work for me, or more bitterly, It doesn't work at all? The thing to do is to recognize that closed doors come to all alike. It doesn't make any difference how good you are or how much you know. Sooner or later you will come to a door that does not open. You will resist them, or you will use them according to your attitude towards them. If you see them as dead ends, you will go down under the belief. If you ask why, and find the cause to be your own divided mind, your lack of realization, you can make the necessary change within yourself and knock again. If you see them as tests of your faith, you will continue to knock. Did Peter become panicky, fearful, or hysterical when the door did not open? Did he fly into a rage? What do the scriptures say? Peter continued knocking. What a lesson in that for us. Our faith is tested by our ability, having done all to stand. It is tested by our ability to keep knocking. Closed doors are often simply a series of questions concerning our fortitude and our stability. They are the measure of our faith. Can you be patient in the face of delay? Can you be positive in the face of negation? Can you be dauntless in the face of defeat? Can you be confident in the face of ruin? Can you be peaceful in the midst of confusion? Can you maintain your faith in the midst of doubt and uncertainty? There is always a possibility that what you most desire is not the thing that you should have. Can you not look back in your life and see occasions when the thing that happened was far better than the thing you projected? A locked door may be side by side with one that is opened wide. If you have a close relationship to God, it should be easy for you to trust everything in your life to Him. It should be as easy to give Him your problems, difficulties, and needs as it is to trust Him to develop the seeds which you plant in the ground, or to regulate your heartbeats and the other involuntary process of your body. Of myself I can do nothing, but with God all things are possible. All is all there is. You are a point of expression for this allness, but until you identify yourself with it, you are like an electric light globe with this light switch turned off. Why is the consciousness of oneness so important in spiritual demonstration? Because one with God is a maturity. Walter Lanyon said, "When you become one with anything, you become that thing, so to speak. So to become one with law is actually to become that law in action." Now ask yourself, am I the law of health in action? Am I the law of success in action? Am I the law of prosperity in action? If your answer is no, ask yourself, why not? The answer you'll probably get is this: you are trying to contact God from a point outside yourself. It is not by mouthing affirmations or singing hymns that God becomes a very present help in trouble. It is only by working from the center out, only by becoming the law in action. What must one do after he has impressed his desire on the subconscious mind? He must trust God for the perfect outworking of the law. What does God ask of us? Just one thing: faith. Why do we complicate the process? Is it wholly because we cannot believe the results will come from simply trusting? Isn't it our real trouble that we cannot quite let go? What does it mean to let go? It means to close the bulkhead doors so tightly that they cannot be opened, to put our claim in an airtight compartment that we no longer have access to go all the way in trusting Him, and not to go back to the problem in thought until it is solved. Is there anything so hard about that? Not any more so than dropping a piece of paper in the wastebasket and leaving it there. You let go of your needs and wants, your ambitions and aspirations, your fears and your worries, your obligations and your responsibility, your claims and your desires in perfect trust and abandonment, knowing that God takes hold when you let go. If you take them up in thought again after placing them lovingly in His hands, you only delay His action. You must trust them to Him with the same abandon that you drop a seed into the ground. Jesus said that the seed must rot before the new root can come forth. It cannot rot, however, if you keep digging it up. Do you see how stupid it is to try to force God to do your bidding, and how wise it is to let Him express Himself through you, as you? Do you want the peace and rest that comes through spiritual relaxation? Then take your place in the consciousness of Christ. Identify yourself with the isness of your divine self. Clothe yourself in faith, trust, assurance, receptivity, and gratitude, and then beat upon the gates of heaven with all the indomitability, importunity, persistence, and spiritual strength which you have. The secret of successful achievement is to press your claim persistently and consistently. Do you understand the difference between instantaneous healing and gradual healing? It is a difference between absolute acceptance and partial acceptance. Instantaneous healing comes when you are able to accommodate the idea with which you have become one. A thing is true because it is true. You don't have to make it so. Blind faith, someone has said, follows God's laws ignorantly and haphazardly, and with intermittent results. Understanding faith works with God's laws harmoniously and successfully. Prayer, made in understanding faith, exerts a powerful influence. When you have absolute faith, it will be as easy to heal a cancer as a headache. Do you believe that you are going to get the things you have asked for? Do you feel it in every atom of your being? Do you realize it in your mind? Believe that you receive them and you shall have them. In other words, accept your fulfilled desire in your whole consciousness, nothing doubting. Assume a virtue if you have it not. Dramatize your affirmation if need be. Pretend to yourself that the desired condition is already established. Live, think, act, and speak as though it were fulfilled now. If all things are possible to him that believeth, the belief must come first. Even though you are terrified by the thing that has happened to you, you must keep your mental level high. Put on the whole armor of God. Call upon your dynamic and creative faith. Apply it to your problem. Tell God that your faith in His power is limitless and that you are calling upon that power now. Realize that the subconscious receives your direction and acts upon them immediately. If God be for us, who can be against us? Repeat this statement many times. Get your consciousness of oneness and partnership with God. Nothing can defeat you. With every demonstration you make, your faith will be nourished, vitalized, and strengthened. You will come eventually to the place at which you will make your demonstration easily and naturally. You will build up within your consciousness a magnetic field which will attract all the elements and factors needed for your success. So why do you sit still? There are factors that delay healing and other answers to prayer. Through your objective mind, you can identify these, reason about them, and analyze yourself to see which of them are operating in your life. By putting your faith to work through your knowledge of how to use your subjective mind, which is one with the creative mind of God, you can eliminate them. Doubt not. Doubt is one of the malignant forces that attempt to operate against your faith. If ye have faith and doubt not, whatsoever things ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. Whosoever shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that those things which he saith shall come to pass, he shall have whatsoever he saith. We open the mind through faith and close it through doubt. A kingdom divided against itself shall fall. The ancient plea, Lord, I believe, help thou mine unbelief, is made by each one of us at some time, for the objective mind, registering the impression of the senses, challenges the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. A very ardent young lover began his letter to his fiancée in this way. Darling, I'd swim rivers and seas to be near you. I'd climb all the mountain ranges in the world to be at your side. But after pages and pages of sentiment, he added this postscript. I'll see you Sunday night if it doesn't rain. So it is with us. We say, I would do anything to get more faith. I'd give my right arm to learn how to pray. But there is always the postscript. I'll take up the study in earnest if I can find the time. I'll take the course if it doesn't cost too much, if it doesn't rain, if it doesn't inconvenience me, if I can spare the money. The if betrays a divided mind. St. James said, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Dean Ing once said, we are losing our Christianity not because anyone is taking it from us, but because it is a religion for heroes and we are merely harmless, good-natured little people who want to have a good time. What does the law say? He that loses his life shall find it, and ye shall serve the Lord your God, and he shall bless the bread and water, and I will take sickness away from the midst of thee. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Trust in the Lord and do good, and verily thou shalt be fed. Only by continual discipline and practice can we become single-minded, one-pointed. Our watchword must be Emmanuel, God with us. Think of self, trouble grows. Think of God, trouble goes. Your Father knoweth that ye have need of all these things. Outlining the process by which the aid we seek will come is another factor in delay. We say, in thee is my trust, and then we tell him how to do his work. Are you still outlining when you pray? Are you still trying to figure out when and how the prayer will be answered? Turn on your trust. Let go some more and help letting go until the problem is completely out of your hands. Then when is not important. There is no time in heaven but now. All you need do is follow the rules. 1. Ask. 2. If there is no answer, seek. 3. If you still get no answer, knock. Put all the possibilities, probabilities, chances, and likelihoods out of your mind and give God a free hand to help you in his way. Outlining is trying to get God to go your way. My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways and my thoughts higher than yours. Eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. Be sure you understand the principle involved. Let us assume that you are in need of financial help and that you are starting out to demonstrate supply metaphysically. How do you go about it? The first thing you do is to make your claim by impressing it with deep feeling upon the subconscious mind. You assume the attitude that would be yours if the desire had already materialized. You declare your oneness with God's allness, and you take the words of Jesus personally. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. You believe this promise, and you accept it for yourself. Your mind is now open to the things of God, and you are ready to take the final steps. There are 3 of them. 1. You call upon your creative imagination to help you see in your mind the thing that you want. 2. You feel God's power entering your treatment and accomplishing that which you asked for. 3. You claim fulfillment of your desire by saying, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost, Amen. Finally, you rest the case with Him in perfect trust. You know that if God cannot do it, it cannot be done. The word Amen, which means so it is or so he it, is your recognition of the fact that God has already done everything that needs to be done, that you are already that which you want to be, that you already have that which you seek. Are you ready to take the final step, or are you still wondering how your need for more money will be met? Perhaps several possibilities run through your mind. Frank owes me money. Maybe he will pay me. It's a long time since I had a raise. I could ask for one tomorrow. Possibly someone will buy these lots. Perhaps someone will leave me some money. Maybe it isn't God's will that I should have this demonstration. The law said that God can't take hold until you let go. Put all these possibilities out of your mind and think only of God's power and His willingness to use it on your behalf. He has ways of fulfilling your desires which you have not even thought of. Cling to that trust. Increase your understanding of it. Be true to it. Dare to leave everything quietly to God. Dare to claim His overflowing abundance in the midst of poverty and lack. Dare to trust Him through every difficulty and every vicissitude. Dare to claim that God can do, that God will do that. God is doing whatever is necessary right now. Dare to acknowledge the presence and power of God in every person, circumstance, condition, and thing. Know God in yourself as you. Do you feel the thrill and upsurge of power that comes to you as you say these words? God in me as me. It is I, be not afraid. Fear, which is faith in negative, is an agent of doubt and often the cause of it. It is faith misdirected. It is faith in evil. God did not plant failure, limitation, trouble, worry, fear, and disease in you. You thought them up for yourself, fed them with your thought and attention, kept them alive with your belief, and so continue to attract them to your experience. How then do you expect Him to answer your prayers? How can He get through a mind choked with negation? You cannot claim the blessing until you make room for it, until you identify yourself with it. The mind can think only one thought at a time. The sooner you give up your negation, the better. The law is infallible, immutable, and inexorable. There is no evading it. It works for you only as you bring yourself into obedience to it. To receive directly from God, you must let go of everything unlike Him. Only then does all that the Father hath become yours. Here is a middle-aged man who is in desperate situation financially. He asks for spiritual help and then explains all the reasons why he cannot go ahead. The cards are stacked against me, he said. I have tried to find a job, but no one wants a man over 50. There are no opportunities for a man my age. There is no work in the town where I live, and I have no money to go elsewhere. What good would it do anyway, because the list of unemployed is growing everywhere? I am really not well enough to take a job if it were offered to me. This sounds like an exaggeration, but such a case is common. This man tells his practitioner that he is looking to God for supply, and then enumerates all the reasons why he cannot succeed in giving it to him. Why is such a man sick and poverty-stricken? Because he is misdirecting his faith. He is directing it into negative channels instead of positive channels. He is looking to God and looking away from Him at the same time. He does not know that it takes the same power to go forward as it does to go backward. Will his prayers be answered? Yes, in terms of more lack. Why? Because he is giving more power to his circumstance than he is to God. How can he change the action of the law? How can he cause it to work for him instead of against him? He can do it by changing his relationship to it. This man reminds us of the disciples when they were listening. Multitude needed to be fed. They were overwhelmed by the problem. Can't you hear them? "We have here," they said, "but 5 loaves and 2 small fishes." "My goodness, is that all we have?" "Are you sure? Don't we have anything else?" "That is all there is." Just 5 loaves and 2 measly fish, and 5,000 hungry people? Let's tell Jesus to send them to the village to buy food. Of course, this is a desert place, and it is already dark. But let's go together and tell him what we think. We must save our faces. Now listen to Jesus. "They need not depart. Give ye them to eat." You remember the end of the story. He blessed and brake, and gave the loaves to his disciples, and the disciples to the multitude. And they all did eat and were filled, and they took up the fragments and remained 12 baskets full. You and I often face the 5 loaf and 2 bread problem. We too tend to overstate our poverty and thereby increase it. We, like the disciples, forget how close we are to the source of supply, how near he is who came that we might have life and have it more abundantly. It is one thing to affirm the allness of God, and another thing to make a connection with it. All that the Father hath is mine only when I am in his consciousness, only when I have the conviction that it is already mine. Jesus knew that the law of faith works negatively as well as positively. When a man said, "There are no opportunities for one my age. Nobody wants a man over 50. The cards are stacked against me. I never get the breaks. I am not well enough to take a job," and he believes that, which he saith, accepts as true, shall come to pass. What he believes will continue to manifest in his affairs. God is not unkind or unfriendly, but he works through law. Life responds to us by corresponding to our states of thought. It gives to us according to our expectations. The law is impersonal. It works the way we use it. Yet we have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear. Bondage to the past that continues to be an active force in our thought, feeling, and action can be escaped from only by accepting the promise. "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." The subjective mind is the seat of the memory. Buried deep in it are the causes of much of the delay we experience in appropriating our good. These unseen and forgotten forces tend to keep us in a state of restlessness and frustration. To all outward appearances, there may be nothing in your life that is contrary to the law of God. But you are troubled much of the time, uncertain, vague, jumpy, and haunted by fears you cannot even name. Do I hear you say that does not apply to you? Then you are an exception to the rule. Either that, or you have not honestly faced your delays, disappointments, and defeats. Have you ever desired something which, despite all your best efforts, has eluded you? Have you ever entered one of these hectic periods when everything goes wrong and nothing goes right? Most of us have suffered frustrations and disappointment, and some of us have dwelt upon them until they have taken root. Are you asking such questions as these? What is this imperious voice which speaks out of the shadows and says no when it should say yes? Why is my healing so long delayed? Why do my goals elude me? Why this mental and spiritual conflict within me? How long must I continue half slave and half free? Do you really want to know? Do you really mean to do something about it? Then listen to Jesus. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. You cannot follow 2 lines of thought and get one result. You will continue half slave and half free until you cleanse the mind and flush out every old fixed, unhappy thought that enslaves you. You may not recall when you first entered this unhappy state, but there is one in you that knows. There is one who has provided a way out. There is one who can make you wholly free, one who said, "Come unto me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Suppressed desires, forced inhibitions, race beliefs, and such things as heredity and predestination, forgotten experiences that left remorse, resentment, hatred, jealousy, envy in their wake often prove to the unknown forces that play upon our lives and express themselves in our experience. Sometimes they are consciously accepted, but most often they lie deeply buried in the subconscious mind, but not dead. Accepted, they make wonderful alibis for shortcomings. Have you ever heard anyone say such things as these? "That's the way I was brought up. I can't change now. My father was tubercular, and so I have never been strong. Of course I'm afraid of lightning. When I was a child, Mother used to send me under the bed. I forgave her, but I didn't forget, and I just can't stand her. Oh, we'll always be poor. We'll always have been." If you have any doubt about the effect of these fixed and unhappy thoughts that afflict most of humanity, observe their patterns in the lives of individuals. Observe the effect upon the eyes, the face, the skin, the pulse, the manner of speaking, acting, and thinking. Anything in the subconscious mind that lowers the mental level lowers the vitality and drags down the health. Dr. Frank Sladen at the Ford Hospital in Detroit, Michigan said, I maintain that a man cannot live without Christ unless he admits that living in unhappiness and conflict, in hate, envy, selfishness, futility, nervousness, and fatigue, in slavery to innumerable possibilities of compensatory and destructive habits is really living. In my eyes, people come figuratively limping into church, handicapped and sick from living with unsolved problems within their own bodies, or their own homes, or with their children, business, or other relationships. Even if they don't realize it and don't consider themselves ill, they do resemble going to and from church, our patients, as they go to and from the office, except that the former wear their best Sunday's clothes. Many people try to demonstrate truth while still filled with untruth. It does not work. Many people have accepted Christ in the conscious mind, but not in the subconscious, and here much of our conversion falls down. When the dentist pulls out an offending tooth, he knows that he must get the root or it will set up an infection that will poison the whole system later on. So it is with those habit patterns of the past. Until the roots are withdrawn, the manifestation of faith will be delayed. These habit patterns that cause us to limp through life may have started as some little sin, fear, mistake, or imagined hurt. As they were repeated, they gradually cut a pattern in the subconscious mind, and all our thoughts from then on flowed through this pattern. Some of them got roots through repetition, and others through repression or suppression. We dealt on them so long that they sank into the subconscious, and there formed a center of their own from within. Without our consent, they exert a constant power. To a greater or lesser degree, we have all these unconscious influence in our lives, and fight them as we may. As long as the roots are there, our thought is drained through them. There is a way to root out all these habit patterns of the past, but it cannot be effective until the cause of the problem is known. By that I mean that we cannot apply a constructive course of action until the offending pattern has been unmasked. The first step, therefore, is to find this hidden memory pattern and bring it out into the light. Where does your trouble come from? When did it start? What caused you to be so fearful? When did you first get angry? Who was it that hurt you and why? Why were you resentful? Why were you disillusioned? What did you do that caused you to be ashamed? Why do you feel guilty? Try to recall. Get very still and try and remember. Command the subconscious mind to bring all these memories up to the conscious mind. Do it in the same way that you recall a name, date, or event. Make your demand and then turn your thought to something else. Whatever information you are seeking will come forth. Does not the Bible say that there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, and hid that shall not be known? The answer may come while you are in the silence, or it may come when you are thinking about something else, but it will come. In the moment ye think not, the Son of Man cometh. The next step is to replace the offending pattern that you have uncovered with one that is so strongly positive that it literally reverses the negative one. Let us suppose that the offending thought pattern is fear. Fear of any one of the thousands of things that hold people in bondage. To reverse fear, enter the silence and meditate upon a statement of truth such as this: My faith in God delivers me from all fear. Impress these words upon the subconscious mind with deep feeling until a great sense of peace, which is the answer, comes over you. Then speak to your subconscious mind in some such manner as this: Subconscious mind of me, you are a vibrant, living part of me. You are instantly receptive and responsive to my call. You always obey my commands and directions. You fulfill my desires to the letter. You always do what I want done. There is nothing that you cannot do. I have absolute faith in you because you always act upon those ideas which I feel to be true. You are always waiting for my call, and right now I want you to reverse this pattern of fear with a pattern of faith. Eliminate from my mind all fear and all belief that anything is now wrong or ever can be wrong. Insulate my mind against fear that no thought of my fear can ever enter my conscience again. You can draw the roots of this old fear out of me, and know that you are doing it now. Go all the way back to my memories and heal all these things that happened in the past so that they will not trouble me anymore. You have received my instructions and you have responded to my call. You have broken the chains which have now bound me. I feel the fullness of perfect faith in every atom of my being. My faith in your power is unlimited, and I know that the healing, freeing work begun in me will continue until I am very wit whole. Such a meditation may be used for any intention simply by changing the words to correspond to the nature of your desire. Judge Troward said, "Whatever he believes does for us in very fact exist." That is true about these unconscious forces which, unchallenged, plague the mind and life. If you have a root pattern of fear, if you believe that the cause of your fear is real, it will be real to you. It will injure you quite as much as a thought if it were real. Therefore, change your consciousness from the negative pattern into the positive pattern. You must come to see that these doubts that darken your vision, these fears that paralyze your efforts, these ghosts that haunt you, these memories of people who represent opposition are really nothing more than less than your own reaction to the things that have happened to you. They have power only because you give it to them. Withdraw the power by reversing the pattern, and they will cease to trouble you. When you have cleansed your mind and brought it around to a normal, natural state, you will be able to say with Jesus, "The prince of this world cometh and findeth nothing in me, nothing for evil to act with." When the stream of consciousness is no longer diluted with doubts, fears, inhibitions, and repressions, faith has an open channel through which to flow. Energies will be quickened, resolution strengthened, confidence deepened, life broadened and enriched, and courage made sublime. Several years ago, a prominent woman called to ask if I would come and pray with her for healing. She had a broken hip that would not heal, and I soon found in talking with her that the delayed healing was not in the hip itself. The doctor who had been called to set the hip after the accident had made a mistake, and another doctor had to be called 6 months later to set the hip properly. X-ray pictures showed that the hip was then set perfectly, but still did not heal. In questioning the woman further, I found that her heart was filled with bitterness and hatred toward the doctor who had made the mistake. Her body was now filled with great pain and suffering. "I must have relief," she said. "I believe that God can heal me." "He can heal you," I replied, "if you give up this hatred. But he can't heal you so long as you are generating this poison in your mind." "Well, there's nothing I can do about that," she answered, "for I still hate the doctor as long as I live." "Very well," I replied, "then there is nothing I can do for you." Several months elapsed, and the woman called again. This time I found her in a very different frame of mind. "I have been thinking," she said, "about what you told me the last time you were here, and I have decided to try to love Dr. So-and-so. I want to pray for me, and that I may be forgiven for the hatred I have been holding towards him." God had touched this woman's heart, and she saw for the first time that her faith in God's power could not operate in the presence of a resentment. That love and hatred could not dwell in the same place at the same time, and that without love there would be no healing. There was now a deep desire in her heart to be liberated from the feeling of bitterness and hatred which had been filling her body with pain. She was ready for Christ to come in and break the chains of torment which she had bound around herself. She was freed and her body was healed. Take 3 steps: turn, deny, realize. I like the treatment book written by F.L. Rawson many years ago, and he said, "Turn in thought at once to heaven." Turning one's thought is the first step. He was saying practically what Jesus said: "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth, here now in you and John and Mary, as it is being done in heaven." Any disease there? No. Any sudden death there? No death at all. Any cancer there? No. Having gotten the realization of the heaven within you, pray for yourself or another, knowing that his will is that we be perfect here and now, even as he is perfect. Rawson said, secondly, deny the existence in heaven of the wrong thing thought of, seen, or felt. You are praying for someone with cancer. Do you see what a boon it is to be able to say, "There is no such thing in heaven. Heaven is within me, and I am within heaven." And then to say, "O God, thy will be done in earth, here in me or in my friend as it is in heaven." Thirdly, Rawson urges, realize the existence of the opposite. When we hold with sufficiently tenacity to the truth, that is, to the reality of the spiritual plane, we get grace from above to change conditions on the physical plane. The most powerful treatment you can get is the realization of the truth in the statement, "I and the Father are one." There is nothing more powerful than the consciousness of oneness with God. As I write to you today, it is snowing. There is no argument about it. When you picked up this book to study, there wasn't anything in you that doubted it was a book. When you can say to a person with cancer, "You haven't any cancer," with the same conviction and realization that you say, "This is the book," there will be no cancer. Man made the devil to oppose God, sickness to oppose health, poverty to oppose prosperity, hell to oppose heaven, by his ignorance or his refusal to recognize and realize his oneness with God. But no matter how long he has been in the desert of duality, no matter how he has messed things up, the moment he accepts his oneness with the Father, he becomes a new creature. The thing he is seeking is the thing he will get when he believes that he has it. The signs follow them that believe. Because God is, you are. The very fact that you exist is proof that you are some part of the whole, and on this rests your faith. You know that you are what? Spirit. When the prodigal son in his destitution said, I will arise and go unto my father, he went unto his own consciousness, the presence of the whole. He said in substance, I shall arise from these human limitations and regain my consciousness of oneness with the Father. Through faith, you come to see that God is that something within you that knows itself. The Lord thy God in thy midst of thee is mighty. When you demonstrate the allness of God, you recognize that it cannot know anything other than itself. It includes everything. It is everything. It cannot know anything separated from itself. As you turn to God, he turns toward you. I shall arise and go unto my Father. Father of what? The Father of my body, the Father of my business, the Father of my work, the Father of everything in my world. Like the prodigal son, you effect this union for yourself. The consciousness of the presence is that state of mind which believes in the good, the enduring, and the true. When you dare to arise and go to the Father's house, you arrive by way of your oneness with God. There is nothing in your mind to contradict this oneness. You believe that your word is using a power greater than itself, and that there is nothing in the universe to deny it. You accept the invitation, call upon me, knowing that every demand you make upon the presence will be honored. The presence has only one purpose, and that is to experience itself in and through you. You have only one purpose, and that is to accept the presence. When you return to the Father's house, you change from self-consciousness to God-consciousness. Why tarriest thou? Arise. Are you afraid to try your faith? Are you afraid that it won't work? Then dismiss such a foolish thought from the mind. Even while you are afraid that your faith won't work, it is working. It takes just as much faith to believe that faith doesn't work as to know that it does. What doth it profit, my brethren, if a man says he hath faith, but hath not works? Can faith save him? By works a man is justified, and not by faith only. For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without work is dead also. Are you still trying to force your good into manifestation by concentration, through breathing exercise, through formulas or other gimmicks? Be still and know that I am God. If you would avoid the tiresome treadmill of making demonstrations month after month, lose yourself in the one. Leave all and follow me. Speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. Thou shalt also decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee. There stands the truth towering like the rock of Gibraltar above all your futile efforts. God in the midst of you, God as you. Life as you, power as you, health as you, and prosperity as you. Do you say, if I had just this teaching in my youth? If I could have only had it sooner. Sooner than what? Don't you know that when a student is ready, the teacher appears? The teacher is here. You are ready now. It is time to act. Do something. Put the law to work. Take your stand. Hold to it through thick or thin. God works not by doing, but by being. He waits to express himself as you. Think of yourself as God in objective action. Think of him in you as you. Know ye not that ye are the temple of the living God? Do you wish you had more faith? Are you waiting for it to develop before you make use of what you have? To increase the potential of faith, you must increase your expectations. You must, as Jesus said, launch out into the deep. To become skillful in faith, you must practice faith. Imagination shows you the possibility of God's kingdom. Faith makes them real. Now is the accepted time. Are you ready to put your faith to the test? Then get a pencil and paper and go to work. Put your prayer or treatment into words. See the problem, not as your imagination reports it, but as in truth. The answer awaits the application of the laws of faith to bring it into manifestation. The orderly outworking of the law follows as naturally as day follows night. Apply the rule and the answer follows. So what is the rule? Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. In other words, put first things first. Seek first your conscious oneness with God. I and the Father are one. State as briefly as possible your intention, what you are seeking from God. Be very accurate and definite. Your formula or desire must be just as clear and exact in your mind as it were projected on a moving picture screen. Take these steps. 1. Release a desire with deep feeling to the subconscious mind. 2. Let God have it. 3. Don't question or wonder how this desire is to be fulfilled. Dismiss any mental reservations or doubts. 4. Keep a positive image before your mind. 5. Accept the outcome of your prayer. A claim upon truth is an affirmation, and affirmations, like rubber balls, have a way of bouncing back. If results seem slow at first, take the intention into the silence several times a day, impressing it with deep feeling upon the subconscious mind until you realize that the problem is already solved. Then lose it and let it go. Remember that a man can receive nothing except it be given him from heaven, from the within. When you establish the consciousness of the allness of God and your faith in Him is absolute, the words, "I and the Father are one," will become so meaningful, so significant to you, that there will be no doubt, no delay, no fear, no buried but not dead malignant thought to possess or inhibit the freedom promised to you. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Freedom from worry and anxiety releases your power to serve, develops appreciation of the beauty and magnitude of the world you live in, increases your joy in life. Faith in God enables you to recognize that you are one with the creative principle which seeks constant expression through you. You realize that your responsibility is to release it through your acceptance as a channel through which the Father's business is carried on. Freedom from the fears and anxieties commonly associated with the body comes from knowing there could be no physical manifestation of any kind if there were no spiritual cause. Happily relating yourself to others becomes a matter of recognizing the perfect spiritual man in each individual you meet and in accepting your common oneness of purpose. Faith enables your first waking thought to be, "This is the day which the Lord hath made. We will rejoice and be glad in it." Are you ready to speak your word? Then close your eyes. Relax yourself into God's presence, body, mind, and spirit. Now hold the great desire of your heart in the forefront of consciousness for a moment. See it clearly. Get your sense of oneness with God. Say with deep feeling, "This is God wanting what I want through me." Questions and answers about faith. What is the nature of faith? The nature of faith is to act. It acts not because we make it act, but because it is its nature to act. Faith is the governing factor in our activities. When faith is directed toward anything or anybody, it acts of its own volition. Faith draws to us that toward which our faith is directed. 2. What is the overall meaning of the word faith? The general meaning of the word faith is a positive faith in God, the good. Faith is a mental attitude which places God at the center of one's thoughts, words, and acts. Faith means an absolute trust in and reliance upon God. Faith based upon principle works when everything else fails. 3. What is meant by a living faith? A living faith is one that never doubts, falters, or wavers. Faith clings to divine law until victory is realized. Faith not only believes, but also accepts the fulfillment of every promise. 4. Why is faith called the key to the storehouse? Faith is the causal factor in prayer. Faith accepts the unreasonable and believes the impossible. Someone has said, faith counts the things that are as though they were not, and the things that are not as though they were. 5. What is the best translation of Paul's definition of faith? Moffat's translation is the best rendering of this passage. Now faith means we are confident of what we hope for, convinced of what we do not see. 6. What is required for an irresistible faith? A consuming interest and a fixed desire are essential. The first is the driving power of faith. The second is the adhesive force which holds to its goal. But desire and interest without faith are helpless. 7. Is faith intellectual or spiritual? Faith is essentially spiritual. Faith begins in the mind but comes to fruition in the heart. Faith is not measured by our intellectual ability to call a thing done, but by the realization in the heart that it is done. 8. What is the difference between faith and belief? Belief is of the intellect, while faith is of the heart. Many people believe that they are one and the same thing, but that is not true. There is belief in faith, to be sure, but as the Bible tells us, the devils also believe. Almost anyone can believe, but not everyone can exercise faith. Without the power of faith, belief is weak. 9. What is the difference between blind faith and understanding faith? Blind faith is an undeveloped faith. It follows God's laws ignorantly and haphazardly. Jesus spoke of the blind leading the blind. Understanding faith is a developed faith which works with God's laws harmoniously and successfully. 10. What is the difference between hope and faith? The best answer to this question is contained in an old, unaccredited quotation. Hope is a draft of futurity, sometimes honored but generally extended. What does this tell you? Why is hope a draft on the future? Why is it generally extended? Because the future is a time apart from experience. Hope is honored only when it becomes faith. The difference is that between possibility and actuality. Hope is vague, uncertain, and sometimes forlorn, while faith is definite, certain, and joyous. There is no delay in the answer to our prayers other than lack of faith. 11. Is it necessary to have faith in yourself? By all means, for faith in yourself, in your real self, is also faith in God. It is the starting point in every worthwhile accomplishment. If you do not have faith in yourself, how can you have faith in God and in others? If you do not have faith in your ability, how can you put it to work? To be successful in any field of endeavor, you must not only have faith in God, but in yourself and in others. According to your self-confidence be it done unto you. Believe you can and it will. If you follow and trust God's law, you cannot fail. Know yourself, believe in yourself, think well of yourself. Get rid of the worm of the dust attitude. Self-confidence keeps the mind working at full speed and capacity and draws continuously upon the deeper resource within. 12. What is meant by negative faith? Fear is negative faith. Before we can fear anything, we must first have faith in it. In fact, there can be no fear without faith. Fear is faith in evil. 13. What is most important in faith? The most important thing in faith is its polarity. If your faith is positive, your thoughts will be positive, your words will be positive, and you will attract the best of everything. If your faith is negative, your thoughts will be negative, your words will be negative, and you will attract the worst of everything. The polarity of your faith determines the results. If you have been living, thinking, acting, speaking on the negative side of life, the polarity of your faith needs changing. 14. What is meant by the words polarity of faith? This is explained fully in Making the Contact, but I shall explain it briefly here. Faith is an attitude of the whole mind, but fulfillment depends upon how deeply it is embedded in the subconscious mind. Out of the heart, or subconscious mind, are the issues of life, said Jesus. No matter how much we may know intellectually or how fervently we may pray, we always attract those things which we really are. The law of faith works both ways. If it is centered in the desirable, we attract the desirable. If it is centered in the undesirable, we attract the undesirable. That is the law of polarity. 15. How does one reverse negative polarity? If faith is moving in the wrong direction, moving with a negative faith in evil, the only thing that needs to be done is to replace it with faith in good. Dr. C.O. Southard said, "Faith is not subject to argument or experiment. A person either believes or disbelieves, and since that faith is fixed in his subconscious, it can only be altered by the person himself, by his own efforts. Through the conscious mind, we analyze the character of our faith and make our decision. By using our will, we give attention to that which is good. What we give attention to becomes a moving force in our lives. Our faith in good expands and grows with use." 16. What part does the subconscious mind play in changing the polarity of faith? The subconscious mind is the agent in changing the polarity of faith. First, you break up the negative habits of thought into which the subconscious is drifted by cleansing, by discipline, and by reversal. Then you condition it to hold the positive ideas so firmly that it becomes the ruling factor in your thought, acts, and words. This can be done in meditation and in the silence by impressing the idea with deep feeling upon the subconscious mind, not spasmodically, but consistently. You can accelerate the process by repeating the idea to yourself silently or aloud, even as you go about your daily task. My faith is in God, omnipotent good, as the only presence and the only power in me and in my affairs. As you do this, the old habits of thought will drop away, and the new concept will take its place. 17. Why is desire necessary to the perfect outworking of faith? Desire is the matrix or mold through which faith works. It is the pattern through which demonstrations are made. Since the law of faith is impersonal and works for the bad as well as the good, and since we are continually believing in something, faith must have a guide. Whatsoever things ye desire when ye pray, believe that you have received them, and ye shall have them. When the desire is drawn out to a point, clearly defined, it becomes on demand. Our claim must be specific. We must have a vivid mental picture of what we want, and here the imaginative faculty comes in. If you can imagine it, you can have it. 18. Why must the desire be freed before it can be fulfilled? You might as well ask why the seed must be dropped in the ground before it can bring the increase. Seed cannot grow in your hand, on a shelf, or in a packet, nor can your desire materialize if you hold it tightly in your thought. Jesus told us to take no thought in order to give the desire a chance to go forth and bring back its reward. Since the desire cannot be two places at the same time, we must choose between fulfillment or frustration, between letting go or holding on. Jesus said that the seed must be dropped in the ground, and that the desire must be relinquished to God. Take no thought does not mean lapsing into a state of unconsciousness. It means taking away the anxiety and fear which prevent the manifestation of your desire. When you release a desire in absolute forgetfulness, as Jesus did, the reward will come flowing into you in limitless measure. The way of fulfillment is not through thought, but through God. 19. Why is imagination important in spiritual work? Imagination stimulates the faculty of the mind. It expands consciousness and causes the mind to act along new lines. In metaphysics, we call it the great magnifier. If you are seeking to demonstrate a new home, you first decide what kind of home you want. You see it so clearly in mind and in such detail that it is ever in the forefront of consciousness. Then you proceed to desire that home with all the passion and power of your soul. The next step is to imagine yourself living in that home, moving from room to room with the members of your family and looking after it. This is the pattern of your desire, and you keep your pattern before your attention. You make it so complete and perfect that there will never be any occasion to change it. Imagination calls forth the great or the small according to the directions which you give it. Therefore, you must always seek the best, or that which is in accord with your highest ideals. You should never make provisions in your thought for a compromise. If you have an ideal house in mind, stick to that ideal. Apply all the power of your desire in making your dream come true. 20. What part does expectation play in faith? Expectation is faith in action. Expectation is the feeling of fulfillment that comes from conviction. When you ask God for something, you must expect to receive what you ask. Expectation that comes from conviction does not run around beating the air in anxiety and suspense like the bettor at the racetrack. Expectation is calm, tranquil, and confident. Knowing that the desire is already fulfilled, it is quiet, serene, and undisturbed. The expectation that gets phenomenal results wastes no time in speculation or doubt, but accepts the promise of God as real and true. The greater your expectation, the harder your faith will work, and the more it will accomplish. Expect the best, and you will get the best. Expect your faith to work, and it will work. Expectation is not only a great stimulus to action, but is also the push and motive power behind faith. It causes your faith to move with greater rapidity and power toward the fulfillment of your desire. Have you decided what you want? Then change your mind with tremendous faith, interest, and expectation. Know that your faith will produce it. Let the feeling of expectation be full, deep, and continuous. 21. What part does concentration play in faith? It is a mental law that any idea held firmly in the mind expresses itself in the body and affairs. But the only ideas that can be held firmly in the mind are those in which we have faith. The purpose of concentration and faith is to direct all our thoughts, feelings, and activities toward the fulfillment of our desire. In other words, to pinpoint the desire until it has been fully realized. 22. Why is persistency necessary to success? Persistency in faith is like fire under the boiler. Faith generates the energy necessary to succeed. There is nothing that cannot be accomplished through faith. But the trouble with most persons is that they cannot hold to their faith long enough to realize the fulfillment of their desire. They are up today and down tomorrow. Their faith works by fits and starts. They lack the stick-to-itiveness which brings success. St. James says of such a person, "He that wavereth is like the wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. Let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord." The law says that if we want success, we must have faith and persistency. The promise is that in due season we shall reap it if we faint not. The faint heart cripples faith and limits its capacity for worthwhile achievement. You cannot lose it if you hang on. 23. What part does the will play in desire? The will plays no part in desire. In fact, its only purpose is to determine whether you will believe or not. Until the desire has been placed in God's hand and forgotten in absolute trust, you delay the manifestation, which it is His purpose to bring to pass. We do not will things into being. We will only to initiate action and to start things going. We will to act, to go forward, to achieve, to do more, and to be more. We can achieve only what we will to achieve. We can do only what we will to do. Will does not control faith or mental action, but it does give impetus and push to it. 24. Why is it that many persons do not realize their ideals? They have not learned to will to believe. They have not learned to think what they want to think. Instead of acting from their own spiritual centers, they act on the belief and suggestion of others. They follow borrowed ideas instead of their own, and their paths are strewn with incomplete and unfinished tasks. The way to overcome this tendency to drift and wander is to stay put. When you have made up your mind, when you know that your desire is right and spiritually legal, do not allow anything to influence you or cause you to change your mind. 25. What happens to faith that is not used? The same thing that happens to the tires on an automobile that is not used. To keep the rubber flexible and resilient, the car must be used. So it is with faith. Faith, if not used, it becomes static and weak. It is like a pool of water that is not agitated. It lacks power. Just as our muscles develop through exercise, faith grows through use. The law says, use or lose. 26. Is it true that negative thought acts with greater power and rapidity than positive thought? No, it is not. It only seems that way. The force of any thought, whether negative or positive, is always in direct ratio to our faith. If we have more faith in evil than in good, the results will be more negative than positive. 27. What are the 6 steps in demonstration? The first step is to formulate our desire, to see it clearly in mind. The second step is to impress it with deep feeling upon the subconscious mind to see ourselves accomplishing that thing. The third step is to exercise our faith by accepting the desire as fulfilled. The fourth step is to keep our feeling and thinking moving with our desire. The fifth step is to order our conversations aright, to speak always in terms of expectancy and fulfillment. The sixth step is to carry our desire into action, to act as if it were already fulfilled. End of chapter.